So let's talk about Vietnam today. Vietnam was actually pretty cool. I can say that living in Vietnam is definitely different. It You are not, if you're not comfortable with crowds, you definitely want to stay away from Vietnam because there's literally, unless you go to the countryside or unless you live, or you visit way out in some of the provinces, you're definitely going to be a little claustrophobic with Vietnam. But Vietnam was interesting. So we flew into Vietnam in December of 24, around December 8th of 2024, and we flew into Ho Chi Minh City, which is a wonderful city. But your initial reaction to walking around once the shock of everything wears off, the busyness, the crowds, is everything's just a little bit, say, dirtier. I mean, it's just their sidewalks have a lot of business on them. They wash a lot of things out there. It's just, don't wear white shoes. There's no need for white shoes in Vietnam. But we stayed in Ho Chi Minh City for about a week. And then we took a night train from Ho Chi Minh City to Nha Trang, Vietnam. And we chose Nha Trang for a reason. Da Nang is kind of where all of the expats go. And if their area is pretty much congested with expats from other countries, America, of course, and then pretty much every convenience you would find in America. So if you're going there to find your McDonald's and your Domino's and your burger joints and things of that nature, Da Nang is where you find it. Nha Trang is not so much that way. The more Chinese and Russian visitors, which comes into play a little bit later on in the story, but you're not going to find as much. You still have it. You can still have it delivered. There's a lot more local restaurants, local foods, local things to do. But both are cities, big cities, and both are very, very congested. It was also our first real realization we're going to walk a lot. You walk everywhere over here. If you don't walk, you take a scooter. If you don't scooter, you take a Grab or something of that nature, kind of our version of an Uber. And if you don't do that, you take a taxi. But I mean, if you rent a car in Vietnam, you are very brave. And we have a car here in Thailand, and we have two scooters, and we ride all over and we drive all over. I would not in Vietnam. I just wouldn't. It's the traffic, the way they do things. There's stop signs and red lights in some of those places are non-existent. They just honk a lot. That's how they talk. They honk. They honk to say I'm going left. They honk to say I'm going right. They honk to say I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm backing up, I'm moving forward. Sometimes they just honk. They're not doing anything. They honk. It's loud a lot. Um, we didn't drive. We walked a lot, and we did get our steps in for sure. But the culture there, the people are very receptive and very nice to Americans. They are very wonderful, very welcoming. They are not nice to Russians in South Vietnam. If you know your Vietnamese history, you'll know why. But it's not uncommon to see a Vietnamese man walking around with a MAGA hat on in Vietnam. But in North Vietnam, it's a different story. But that being said, if they think you're Russian, their attitude towards you is going to be pretty bad right off the bat. So, when you speak and they know you're American, it changes pretty quickly. And they are some of the sweetest people, some of the most welcoming, some of the nicest people. We stayed in a condo slash apartment for 3 months, which we learned very quickly, like I said before on my Facebook page, our Facebook page, me and April's Facebook page, and she's not here right now, by the way. She went grocery shopping. Um, you got to be real careful when you're booking places. You can get some great deals with some beautiful views. We had a beautiful view out over the ocean, but booking.com and Travelocity, it costs you nothing to put your basic so many pictures and your room up on there. So a lot of these places are owner operated by a management company, and they use Booking and Travelocity like Airbnb to circumvent the fees. And then what they do is you go on there and you book your room. They give you a great deal, and it's really hard to beat, because if you compare it to a Hilton or a Marriott or a Ritz-Carlton or anything brand name, it's at least 50% cheaper sometimes for the same view, if not better, and a lot of the same amenities. So, but it will have a very small little area where it'll say pay now, and you try to pay and it won't let you, or it'll say pay at resort or pay at hotel. And you're like, okay, great. Well, because you think Booking takes Visa and MasterCard and American Express, Discover, this place will too. Well, that is not true. Not even remotely true. You will get there and you will find that, one, if you hit pay now, it didn't charge your card. And two, when you get there, you'll find they don't accept American Express hardly anywhere over here, unless it's a major group like a Ritz-Carlton or something. Some of them will only accept cash, which means now you have to figure out how you're going to pay. So I would always bring the equivalent of cash to transfer or to exchange for at least my room and board. That way you are at least okay with that. And then you can kind of figure out the rest as you go. But that's one thing I would definitely suggest do. But anyway, you go there and then you have to figure that out. We had a problem with that. We realized it didn't charge our card. I paid in cash. I could have paid with Visa or MasterCard, but the fee internationally plus the percentage that they add to it for you using your card, it was actually cheaper for me to go take the bulk cash out of an ATM and at a one-time fee versus that, and then just, or even at 3 times. I had to do it 3 times because they only allow you to take so much a day out, because you don't realize $100 is a lot of Vietnamese dong. So you it'll limit you. So that being said, I paid in 3 payments for 3 weeks, and then that way it gave the bank time to catch up and everything. So either way, there's apps you can use to pay and stuff like that. But just a little tip for when you're traveling over there. But Vietnam is beautiful. The people are wonderful. The beaches are gorgeous. They have some beautiful tropical islands. We went to several, and we have links in different areas that we'll put up of some of these places. And I definitely I can see the appeal of why people want to move there and live there and retire there. Obviously, for financial reasons, it's more financially feasible on less money than you would live on in the U.S. I do not call places cheap. Nothing is cheap. That's a relative term, and that just depends on who you are and how you're speaking. I don't use that. To me, it seems a little degrading to a lot of these people. It's degrading, period, to say it to them. Nothing is cheap. It is relative to your income and a lot of other things. So the affordability for us with the transfer rate is a lot better. There are countries that are even more affordable. The Philippines is even more affordable, but we love Vietnam. It's the problem that I found, is one, it is highly populated. There is a large amount of people in very small spaces, and it takes you a long time to get outside of a city far enough to where that is hard to see. Two, it is very loud. It's like Vegas. It's 24 hours a day. They honk a lot with their horns. They talk with their horns. Traffic is everywhere. You know, the sidewalks are small. Vendors have businesses all over them. You got to walk in the streets. The visitors are not always that nice. I'm not against anybody, but the Chinese visitors that we ran into in our area were not polite. They're just not really nice people that are visiting there. That doesn't mean that they all are. Just these weren't. And I hate to say this, that's kind of a consensus from a lot of these countries because they come for the same reason. It's their money transfers differently. It goes further, and there's that superiority complex that a lot of them come with. And that's not just them. That's a lot of places, but there's just a large amount of them. So that was something I got really annoyed with really quickly. But it's tight. It's tight spaces and tight places. It's not spread open, wide open, where you can be free of people and stuff. And so it definitely takes some getting used to people being in your personal space. But Nha Trang is beautiful. The countryside is beautiful. Ho Chi Minh City, I would say, is a must-see. We've been to Hanoi. I would not tell you to visit Hanoi. I don't like Hanoi. It is in the north. It has a lot different influence. And the locals were just not very polite. And not to Americans, to each other. They just aren't polite in general. But it's definitely a must-see. And I really truly believe if you were going to retire as an American, the Nha Trang, Da Nang area is probably where you're going to be looking eventually. You may go to Ho Chi Minh City or somewhere, or Hanoi, or wherever one of these big cities, but after a while, you're eventually. You watch a lot of these people online, these digital creators that are walking around. They'll tell you, and they're walking around Bangkok, and they're walking around, some other big cities in the Philippines and stuff. Eventually, they all move out. You want to get away. We never lived in a city when we moved to Thailand. We've always lived on the island of Samui, and we've always lived in basically the countryside of Samui, the smaller part of town, more rural and we just drive around to the busy side when we want to go to the nice restaurants or bars or places to have a hangout. So I definitely put Vietnam at the top of the list of places to go to. But I will say that, definitely take your time and visit a lot of these countries and see what your feeling is. Even though they're all Asian countries, they're all very different. Vietnam is not Thailand in any way, shape, or form. Thailand is not Singapore in any way, shape, or form. Indonesia is not Thailand, Singapore. They're all completely different. They all have something different to offer. And if you're not seeing the differences, then you're not assimilating into the population real well. On the face, you're saying it's an Asian country and this and that. They drive the same cars, they ride scooters. They have the little restaurants on the side of the road and the little coffee shops and the cafes. Well, then you're just seeing it for the face value. You're not getting into the culture. Once you get into the culture and into the people, you will find they are 100% different. They are not the same. Their beliefs aren't the same. What they allow is not the same. What they find, what customs they find, they want you to consider and not disrespect are not the same. They are different. And I think that's one thing that we did really well is we made sure that we traveled to these different places because Thailand kept calling us back. It kept making us feel like home. These people here are very welcoming. And no matter where you go, I walk the streets all the time. I walk into town, whether it's strangers, you can walk into any shop, anywhere. Now, are you going to have one that may not be having a good day? They're normal people just like everybody else. Yeah, they may not want to deal with you. Go to the next one. There's the next one. That's one thing about here that you will find is if there's something to be profitable from, a business to open, and somebody opens one, if anybody sees that they're profiting from it, they'll open 3 more next to them. So, bad for them, good for you. If you're not happy with the way that you were treated in one store, just go to the next one. There'll be 100 of them. They just don't have a lot of options here. So what they do find to be, profitable or even slightly profitable, there's a bunch of them. So it's just take your time. We spent 3 months in Vietnam. Now, we made a few mistakes in our travels right off the bat. We traveled to the first 2 countries for long periods of time, Costa Rica and Vietnam, during the rainy season. Now, we thought we were beating it and gave ourselves some leeway. It was supposed to end about halfway in, so we got really good deals on rooms because it was still in the low season. And we saved that money. But unfortunately, in both places, weather had different ideas and it extended itself. And so we spent about 2 months in each place, pretty much locked away without much to do. And so we only really got 30 days. So we could have done a lot more with that time. And so that was our mistake. But we did learn a lot, how to spend our money, how to save our money, how to get around, what apps we needed to download, which if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. Like I always say before, if you're traveling from America and you have an international calling plan, you do not need an eSIM. You do not need to get a fancy bank account. Now, if you're going to try to move somewhere, you may want to try paying with different ways, like Wise accounts and stuff, because you get, transfer fees and stuff like that. But your ATM card works here just like it works everywhere else. You may have to add like a 0 to it or something, but, just do your research. Your phone will work perfectly fine. And you don't have, if you're going to exchange your cash, if you're going to bring a large amount of cash and exchange it, do it at the airport just because it's simple, easy, and you have it on hand. You don't have to hunt it down. But don't be these people that are, the exchange rate is not going to be far off wherever you go. Some may charge a little more than others. Some may charge a little less. But you could spend all day. There's exchange places everywhere. You could spend all day trying to find the lowest rate. Just exchange your money at the airport and get it over with. I mean, take your time. It's a busy place. You will feel rushed. So just take your time. Slow down. Take your time. It does teach you to relax and slow down. That is one thing that I've done and learned from traveling over here in Asia is that there's always another day and that nobody's in a rush. It's just take your time, enjoy it, take in the people, see how much you really like it. And, if I can think of anything else, we were there in Vietnam a long time, but we went the same reason everybody else is going to go, to visit the places, the museums and the sights and the sounds and the beaches. They're all wonderful, but what we did a lot of was we walked the back alleys and the old parts of town. We got around a lot of the locals. We worked hard to communicate with them to make sure that we understood everything. So definitely take your time, enjoy yourself, and have fun. If you decide to go to Vietnam, you want some tips, reach out, send me a message. We're always checking our messages. We'll answer you. Travel safe.